Hey there, sixth graders. We're going to take a look at a nice way that we can apply the distributive property. I do believe we've talked about this in the past, and I just want to review it with you again because I think this is a really wise way to multiply in your heads. So we can actually do some mental math and some mental multiplying by using the distributive property. And this works really nicely, particularly when you have two-digit factors, such as like in this first example, a 29, that's a two-digit factor. So this is a nice little trick with two-digit factors. And so again, we can indeed use the distributive property to multiply, again, mentally a little bit easier. So here's the cool thing. What we're going to do is we're going to expand out the two-digit number. So we're going to turn 29 into expanded form, which is 20 plus 9. So this is 6 times 20 plus 9. Now we can use the distributive property and we can multiply the 6 to both pieces. So this would be the 6 times 20 plus 6 times 9. So that's what I did down here. So we have 6 times 20 plus 9. So we distribute in. And I worked sideways, but I'll go underneath to make it a little bit more clear. So this is 6 times 20 plus 6 times 9. Now, why is this easier? You might be thinking, well, Miss Gannon, right off the bat, you're writing down a bunch of stuff. How is this easier? Well, I can do 6 times 20 mentally really easily. 6 times 2 is 12, and you add a 0. That's 120. 120 plus 54, that's not a bad addition problem to have to do in my head. So 120 plus 54 gives me 170. Whoops, 4. I almost wrote 177. Sorry. Excuse me, 174. 120 plus 54. Now remember, you would be doing this in your head. I just happen to think it's a lot easier to deal with these two numbers instead of, stacking it up. Because if you're doing this in your head, you're putting a number down here, and then you have to remember what number you carried, and then you multiply that, and you have to remember what you carried and what you left down there. And I don't know, but for me, it was always hard to keep track of those numbers. This is a lot easier for me to keep track of. So let's do a couple more examples together. So 4 times 38, if I want to make this a little bit easier, I could do 4 times 30 plus 8. Now I'm going to distribute. This is 4 times 30 plus 4 times 8. Now, why is this easier? Because in my head, I know right off the bat, that's 12 with a 0, 120 plus 32, which is 152. Easy peasy. No carrying, no adding, no nothing. Well, actually, there was adding, sorry. Okay, so we have 8 times 10 plus 4. So that's just expanded 4. 14 is 10 plus 4. I'm going to distribute in. And that's 8 times 10 plus 8 times 4, 80 plus 32, 112. Done. Not too shabby. A couple more, and then I challenge you to use distributive property on the backside. I do want you to complete the whole thing. So 5 times 49 is going to be 5 times 40 plus 9. Now I'm going to use distributive property. 5 times 40, I'm not going to write it out this time. I'm just going to write down what the answer is. 5 times 40 is 20 with a 0. 200 plus 45 is 245. Done. This is how I multiply in my head now. Growing up, I used to try and do this in my head, and I would do, keep the number down here, carry it, add it, bring it down, and then remember all the numbers you dealt with. I can keep track of these numbers a lot easier in my head. Let's take a look at a 3-digit number. We're going to do the same thing. This is just 100 plus 30. So I'm going to multiply in. 5 times 100 is 500 plus 150 is 650, and you're done. So you're taking some rather complicated multiplication problems, and you're able to solve them really quickly thanks to the distributive property. So go ahead and finish the backside on your own using the distributive property, and you can check the answer key to make sure you got them all right.